What is a hero? A mythological figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability? An illustrious warrior? No. It's a person admired for achievements and noble qualities, one who shows great courage. Welcome to the What's a Hero podcast, where we dive deep into what a hero is and what makes them that hero. I'm your host, Ken Frownfelter, and I'm going to be introducing you to some of the world's most likely and unlikely heroes. You may have never heard of them before, and they most likely have never met you. But they all have one thing in common. They are ready to do whatever it takes to help make you better, even if it means sacrificing everything for you. Let's get into it.
This is episode 73 of the What's a Hero podcast with me, Ken Frownfelter. Philip Spencer was a fresh-faced 20-year-old the day he was hanged. Spencer was a screw-up. He had pretty much flunked out of 2 colleges before his father pulled strings to get him an appointment as a midshipman, an officer in training in the U.S. Navy. True to form, Spencer promptly got himself kicked off a ship for drinking. Given a second chance on the brig Somers, he allegedly hatcheted a plot with some crewmates to take over the ship. Accused of mutiny by the captain, Spencer said he was just joking. It was only a fancy, he said. Spencer and 2 Confederates were chained to the quarterdeck. The Somers was hundreds of miles from port. The crew was angry and resentful, and it seemed to the officers that at any moment the sailors might rise up to murder them and free the 3 prisoners. So, Captain Alexander Slidell Mackenzie ordered that Spencer and his 2 co-conspirators be hanged from the yardarm. But Philip Spencer was not just any young man. His father was a Secretary of War, and his hanging shocked the nation. Some accused the captain of overreacting. Others wanted to know how an unqualified teenager could get an appointment as a midshipman, then be put aboard ship with no training. The public called for reform. Just over 2 years later, in response to the Somers affair, a naval school was founded to turn midshipmen into well-trained officers. Philip Spencer could never have imagined that his death might have paved the way for the creation of the U.S. Naval Academy. And I tell this story, this little tiny story here, because you never know. Everything that you do has some effect on somebody else. Your story, the thing that you do. Now, in this case, it was kind of a negative that turned into a positive. However, a lot of times our positive can turn into a negative, but your positive can turn into a positive. Your negative can turn into a negative. But for the most part, if you, depending on the way you look at it, depending on the way that you adjust your mindset, your negative can turn into a positive. The way the things that you go through can have an effect on somebody else that can really change their life, change their mind, change their day, change their way. Anything you want to think about it, you never know what your story can do to affect somebody else in a positive way. Now, that being said, I have brought somebody on the podcast today who does just that. They tell their story. They help other people tell their story, so that can help others change their mindset. They can get into a position or a place in which they are able to help other people maybe get out of the funk that they're in, or realize that they're not in a position by themselves, but there's other people that have already gone through this and they can help them get through. So with that, I want to introduce to you guys somebody who really changes the way that some people think about what it is that they do. She's passionate about reducing the stigma and providing support for transitioning veterans and first responders by creating a platform that encourages camaraderie and connection. She basically builds a tribe. The thing that she does is called the Power of Our Story. It's coffee and conversation groups are for all protectors, including active duty military, veterans, active duty law enforcement, retired, and all other first responders. It's a place, the Power of Our Story, is a place for safety for the protectors and caring bridge builders. It's a place to come and process the journey together with people who get it. As she says, our stories connect us, and we bring in storytellers, education, learn about resources, or just have an open mic so people can just unload. And she is open to conversation about it. She's open to talking about it and helping other people talk about it. And with that, I want to introduce you guys to Miss Sarah Correll. Thank you for coming on the What's a Hero podcast, Sarah. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. What a great intro. I'm intrigued by your story, and I was just right in there.
You just never know. Everything has an effect on, I look at it like, it's like a pebble in a pond. And I've said this, my listeners know this one pretty well, is you put a pebble in a pond, it causes ripples. Where do those ripples go? Everything has an effect on everything, and it just goes out. Good, bad, or otherwise. But if you can change your mindset, have that positive attitude, or know that what you're trying to do is good, your intentions are good, your desire is good, your heart is right, your character is good, that is going to come back and it's going to affect other people in a positive way. So at least I firmly believe that.
Yeah. Yes, I do too. I think that's great. And if you just put that foot, one step forward, different doors will open.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
You just never know where you'll end up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who is Sarah? Who is she? What does she do? What's her thing?
Well, what's interesting is just by taking that one step, it could seem like what in the world am I doing in this arena? I don't belong there, but I took a step and I ended up here.
And where is here? What just doing power of your story for people?
It is. Yeah, it is. So basically how I see myself is I'm a mother of 4 boys, married for 31 years, very much a family person. And I just did a lot with the kids, had a lot of activity, with the kids and their friends, and always liked them to come over to our house so I could kind of keep an eye on things. And so what happens so often, just like what you were referring to in your intro, is, sometimes bad stuff happens, a bad story happens. And it's like, what are we going to do with it?
Right.
What are we going to do with it? Are we going to shrivel away? Are we going to become bitter? Or are we going to be better? Are we going to take that hardship, that, the saying that turning ashes into beauty? So in 2003, I lost my dad, totally blindsided, lost my dad to suicide.
Wow.
And at the time I had 3 little boys, and I was going to have a 4th boy later that year. And for anybody who survived a suicide loss, it is surreal.
Absolutely.
It's a tough thing. And the hard thing is that there's been, I think it's getting better now, but there's such a stigma around suicide that even though I was somebody that had friends that I could be open with and talk to, that was the first time I really learned what kind of suffering and silence felt like, and what it did. And so I was very fortunate, though, because I was, in a situation where I started a book club. I started what I needed. And so I made it. I think the kids had a good childhood, but there was a lot of compartmentalizing. There was a lot in that to learn how to be resilient and get to a point where I felt at peace again. I felt free again. You have to just, in survival mode, you just have to put on a smile and you have to keep going. Because that's what I felt. I said, there's no way that our kids are going to have a bad childhood because of this, of what happened.
Right.
So fast forward, I thought one of these days I'm going to use this pain to help other people. I don't want anybody to suffer in silence. If I can help it, I don't want people to suffer in silence. I want to somehow be there. I want to somehow give them a platform to have a voice.
Right.
So what happened, interestingly, is no connection to first responders, no connection to the military.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went back to school to become a counselor, MFT, I was kind of feeling things out. I just happened to be sitting next to a Army veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And he shared his story. That one story changed my trajectory.
And you realize that, oh my gosh, everybody's got one of these and they got to get it out. Is that what you're thinking?
Exactly. Uh-huh. Yes. And I think it was just like this perfect storm.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the military has such a high suicide rate, the fact that first responders have a high suicide rate, the fact that these are our protectors, and that led to so many questions. Well, why isn't there a bridge? How come I as a civilian don't understand this? How come I didn't know that? How come I don't know more about trauma? Oh, so then I realized, okay, that's what I had. I went through that trauma, and then really just connecting a lot of dots.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think also having 4 boys myself, I imagined having these kids go off to war, being trained to go off to war, being trained to suffer in silence, because you can't let the morale go down. Yeah, right. I mean, you've got to do that.
Right.
Because there's a mission. There's that's not the time to be vulnerable. Vulnerable means death. Right. When you do everything to not be vulnerable when you're in the military and a first responder. So when I thought about that these kids, these young people are trained to suffer in silence to get missions done.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no reboot on the back end. That's when all of this came together. And I tried different things to try to figure out how to get into that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, it is the simple idea of creating platforms where it's no judgment. It's kind of a sacred arena where people can come and let their hair down, and it's our protectors.
Right.
And be able to even understand their own story more by hearing another person share their story who has now come out the other end.
Right.
So
let me ask you this. Because you did this at, you said you went back to school. That means you had kiddos. And so you're a little bit older then at that point. You weren't, you developed who you were, and you developed your character, and you knew who you were at that point. However, I always like to go back and see how we established this person growing up. So what I want to do is go way back in time and find out who little Sarah was. What was her thing? What did she do? How did she grow up to think of other people? Was she just did she? And did it take a while? So let's go way back in time and figure out who little Sarah was. And
little Sarah.
Yeah, what was her thing? What'd she do?
That's funny. I don't think I've ever been asked that question before on a podcast. Let's see. Well, I grew up in a home of classical musicians, actually.
Wow.
And yeah, totally the opposite from the arena I'm in. That's what's so funny. So I think, I played violin. My parents went to Juilliard, the best music school on the planet.
Yeah.
And so I just by kind of default, that's what I ended up doing too. They kind of put me on the violin. So then had to practice every day. And so I ended up freelancing. I did a little bit that. I never had a passion for it.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I think music does sensitize you. It's kind of like
it evokes so much emotion.
Yeah,
it is the one thing. I'll tell you this. This is something that I learned. It is the one thing that every single person on this planet likes. I don't care, and it might be a different type, but everybody likes music of one type or another. And if you know music and you know music theory, it's almost all the same. If you start getting into notes and things like that, it's but that's one thing that everybody can be connected by. It's almost a universal language next to math.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. You can be with a whole group of people that don't speak the same language, but we can sit down and just sight read and create something beautiful very quickly on the spot.
Yes.
That's very true. And you have to listen to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do think it sensitizes the heart. You pick up on things. You pick up on, something doesn't seem right here,
Right.
or although you would too as a first responder, you're attuned to, you've got that red flag.
Right. Yeah. It's one of these things is not like the other. And then how do I make it like the other? That's
that's
the words you got to live in.
Well, it is interesting because I think, about little Sarah, I think being kind of more tuned in to like music and to people, I think it does maybe elicit more empathy, opens your heart more.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I remember when I was in college, actually, one big, huge thing that happened was I became a Christian right before I graduated from college. And that was a huge thing for me to realize, oh my gosh, we have a creator and we're created a certain way and there's a plan for us.
Right.
And it's all about the other person, about serving and loving. And it's not all about me. So that was a profound shift in how I see life and I see people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put these things together, I created a life, our family and our friends. And then you meet that day. And that was the death of my dad and how it happened. And so I think that's kind of what all comes into play, like how I don't want anybody to go through this surreal confusion. And then I think getting into this arena with first responders, it's pretty wild, but it just seems like this perfect match.
Right. So you went to college after high school, right?
Yep.
And then at what point did you go back to school and you had this moment with this veteran? Was it like shortly after? I mean, you left for a little while and came back, or was it a long stretch of time, or?
Yeah, it was a long stretch of time. It was 8 years ago.
Wow.
So 8 years ago, I went back to be a counselor.
What did you initially go to school for?
I was a music major at first, and I thought, you know what, I've already done this. I'm already, getting jobs, and I thought I need something to fall back on to pay the bills. So I got a studies degree, which gives you a degree to teach. So I thought, I'll be a kindergarten teacher.
Right.
So, it all kind of fits in that arena that I was in.
And so did you do that? Did you teach kindergartner?
I finished school, but I ended up not doing that. I did more freelancing in music. And then my husband and I, we got married and then ended up having this full life raising kids and just involved in different projects. So I really kept busy.
Right.
And the cool thing is everything that I'm doing now is an extension of what I just did in my normal life, just having people over, building community. We'd have the football teams over all the time every week for tortilla soup.
Because the kids were playing ball there?
Yeah, they were all in.
So they'd all bring their friends over. Okay.
Yeah, it was a total madhouse.
If it's a football team, that means there's no food left over either. So it's. Yeah.
Oh man, I made vats of tortilla soup. That was the thing for like 11 years.
Wow.
Whatever sport, whether it was water polo, lacrosse, football, wrestling. It was, whatever age kid team would always come over one time a week, and we would do kind of like a youth group. Mm-hmm. It was, open to everybody, but it was that kind of creating. It created family.
Sure. Yeah. And kids that have maybe a rougher life, or they don't have the open communication or relationship with their parents, they were able to have that they saw that with you guys. So they had a glimpse of if they had a rough life or rough home life or anything like that, He could have easily just been able to say, okay, I don't have to have rough life growing up from here on out. There's this other possibility that I can have.
That's true. This one kid that amazed me, his mother didn't even know that he went on to college.
Wow.
And he graduated, got his master's, is an accountant.
Jeez.
Amazing.
And his mom had no idea that he did this?
Yeah, I mean, I know she loved him, but I think that's just kind of where things were at. He really had to do things on his own to move forward in life, and he did it. And he said just from that camaraderie and all the kids having goals, and he just a lot. I think quite a few of them did that because they just became a family, and so they all rubbed off on each other.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's, we really do heal and thrive in healthy community.
Right.
So,
right. That's cool. That's very cool. So you go and you're raising kids, 11 years of football players and lacrosse players and everything else coming over to the house and eating you out of house and home and probably not cleaning up after themselves, all that stuff like that. But then there's a point when your kids they're growing up, they're getting out of the house themselves, and you're figuring, okay, maybe I want to go back to school. And that's when you went back, right?
Yeah. When the youngest two, so let's see, I had two that were still under 18 when I decided to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took like a class a quarter and thought, I'm going to just explore this because I could really imagine being a marriage and family therapist or social worker.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a therapist friend said, why don't you try drug and alcohol counseling? Because that's shorter. It's a certification, and then you can get the feel of it and see if this is something you want to do.
Right.
And so I did that. And that's the class that I met this veteran.
Okay.
And the drug and alcohol, it wasn't a fit it wasn't a fit, but I loved the work. Actually, I loved the patients, the people.
Uh-huh.
I loved helping them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think really hit me was trauma, learning about trauma, learning about even the difference between problem drinking and addiction, and what happened to these people that caused addiction, or with the trauma I had and just, the deep, deep grief, why didn't I become addicted? Or, just a lot of these questions, like, what is it that kept me anchored that these people didn't have?
Right. I mean, I guess there's that same question that everybody goes through is, anybody that's not, I guess, so aloof to it, but, why does one person do one thing and another person does not? What is the thing? Is it written? Is it already written in their brain? Did they have some trauma when they were a little kid? Do they see this this is an okay thing? Did somebody tell them that it's not an okay thing as they were growing up? Everybody has a different view on something. And so it's weird.
Yeah.
Why is one person addicted and another person not? Is it experience?
Right.
Is it, yeah.
To this day, I still don't have a clear answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it did make me want to say, gosh, is there anything we could do to prevent this?
Right.
Like, is there, and then, you hear these studies, like there is a study about the little mouse rat farm who, when they had the study with the little rats, if they were by themselves, if they had a choice between water and heroin, they would take the heroin and they would die. And then if they had like a fun little rat cage with other rats and other fun things to do, they would always take the water. And
weird.
So that right there, their point being is how powerful healthy community and connection is.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. That whole idea of, and we've talked about it on here, I've had multiple guests on here in regards to peers and talking out your issues. When somebody asks you, hey, how you doing? It's not just passing fare in a hallway. There's some people that really just want to stop and say, how are you? Because you're either good or bad, or I don't know. And I want to be here for you in case it's, you're not doing good. So
yes, right.
Yeah. That makes a huge difference. You're right. so you're going, you hear this veteran story, and you don't necessarily feel that counseling is something that you're going to do. However, you're still going to just finish it and get the certificate, right? And then try to figure out what you're doing next. Is that what happened?
I mean, I gave it a go, and it was, again, I really got a lot out of it. I realized that I really, I really want to do something like that, because I love facilitating they put me in a men's homeless addicted group. So I facilitated that, and I felt such an ease with that. Like, it just felt very comfortable, to facilitate, and really, I wanted to lead with a spirit of love.
Sure.
So that they felt safe, and that they would really let their hair down. And I really felt like it went well. And so I took that. There was just other reasons that in that whole arena that I didn't want to go forward on it, but I loved the patients. I loved helping in that way, facilitating groups.
Right.
And, so it was just a time of exploring, and I tried different things, like tried to, I had people come over to our house, and I had this veteran and his wife come over. And so for a few years, they told their story, and I just kept having civilians come over, like, we should be part of this. You got to listen to his story. We should, we should be part of this. We owe it to them. So I did that for a few years, and then we tried just different ways. Like, if I teamed up with a couple veterans, like, how can we get into that gap? And then COVID hit. And
good old COVID. Always right there where we need it.
Yeah. So that was okay. Start all over with completely new people from ground zero, except for the experience. I at least was taking my experience in.
Good.
And I'll tell you, that was the magic door for what I feel passionate about. It just all clicked, because I think it's not in everybody's in-person back door. It's on Zoom, people from all over the world. And I got on LinkedIn one day and I said, hey, any veterans want to have a conversation? Come meet me on Zoom. Let's talk. And that's what started what we're doing today.
And they all started just coming in, huh?
It started out with 2, and then that was pretty funny. We were all trying to figure out Zoom. So all kind of crazy stuff was happening, but they came back and more people came. And now it's just been this like huge, connection, like huge, so many connections, whether people come to any of our groups or not, they're still part of our family.
Right. So are people open to telling their story? Do they come and kind of just join in and listen for several sessions before they ever say anything? I mean, is it that sort of thing? I mean, just to get comfortable to see if, I'm not going to do this, because, we all know it's type A personality. It's at least in the first responder world. I guarantee that, you go to a briefing or a debrief after a traumatic incident, they're going to sit there like, I'm fine. No, I just did my thing. I just did whatever, and they're not going to want to necessarily open up because they don't talk. It's the safe area. It's the place that they feel comfortable with the people they trust. That's when they open up. So I guess my question is, with this, are they doing something similar, or do they wait a little bit and come back several times?
It's a great question. I've had some come on that were just absolutely not going to say a word. And then after a while, they end up just sharing so much. I've had somebody come on the veterans group that said, I've never talked so much in 20 years, sharing the story. Or I think the first responders group. So I really do try to make sure that the storyteller is on the other side of the trauma.
They're not still going through it or something. Right.
Yeah, that because even for their sake too, because then they can feel really vulnerable, like they haven't really thought through it yet, and they maybe were too vulnerable too quick, or now they can totally be open after the storyteller shares their story and then say, yeah, you know what, I've gone through that too. But when you have somebody who has hit that day, hit rock bottom, found the way to help them get, the resilience comes in and they are able to thrive. When they share their story really vulnerably, it really helps the listeners to understand their own story better. That it's not like I'm so different. I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that has felt these things or have gone through this. I'm not weak and broken. I'm human and responding to these abnormal conditions that no person should have to see every day.
Right.
So it really normalizes being human.
Do they, when somebody tells a story, obviously they're getting that out there. They're getting it off their chest, they're saying it. And then it obviously, maybe somebody else is benefiting from it or whatever. But does the person ever mention to you that, I feel better for having said that? I feel that I learned something because I was saying it out loud, and I never have spoken about it out loud, and now I'm saying it out loud, and I'm hearing this for maybe the first time because I'm saying it out loud. I'm hearing these words. I'm hearing this thing, and have people mentioned this to you in that respect?
They have definitely mentioned that, and I see it.
Yeah,
I see it. I mean, people who have been maybe super quiet when they get on are cracking all these jokes, and they're flourishing in their new season, whatever that is. I mean, it's happened so many times. Just that simple having connection, knowing that they're not alone, really being able to see their situation in perspective. It's amazing how empowering that is to take the next steps into their next season of life.
Right.
I see it all the time.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it's so human. It's so basic. I'm not a clinician. Nobody in the group is a clinician.
Right.
It's just people.
Right. I've had, and I know Chris Hoyer.
Yeah. Love him. Love Natalie.
Oh man. So he's been on a couple times. I've had him on the podcast twice. And he tells a story and he just gets it out there, just lays it out there. And he just wants to, at first we were just talking about his book and the story that his book tells, when that day comes. And as we're going through the whole thing, he said he went through the whole trauma of everything, and he went through the recovery and all this different stuff, in order to write the book. And, he says he still wrestles with that sometimes, the whole thing, but he was able to kind of overcome a lot of it just by getting it out there and just opening himself up. And he says, I have no problem talking about it now. He's like, I'm an open book. And, let's talk about it just by getting out there and talking him. It's just weird when you put yourself out there and you're not doing it for some kind of grandizing or anything like that, but you're putting yourself out there to help benefit somebody else, but you're also dealing with your own trauma. That's why, talking helps. That's why going to counseling or seeing a therapist or whatever helps. But you're all about yourself for a little while because you're thinking, nobody either wants to hear this or there's no benefit to the story I've got. There's no value to it. I'm not a hero, which is like the show, like my podcast. I have people come on. I'm not a hero. I don't have much to say. But if you just tell your story, you'd be so surprised at how much of a benefit you get. And then when you're done with it, and other people get, but when you're done with it, you feel a little bit more lighter weight and you feel good because there's a positivity that just occurred.
So true. It's so true. And you never know. Like we can never self-select ourselves out. thinking that, oh, my story isn't, anything, or you just never know who needed to hear that exact thing.
Right.
Like I see that also, one person's story came in and totally affects this person who came back because of this person sharing their particular angle.
Right.
Never know that beforehand, like who it would deeply affect or.
Yeah.
And it is very healing for the storyteller.
Oh, I can imagine. No, tell me if, and I just thought about this. Tell me if you have ever experienced this. You're going through life, you're doing whatever, and something comes up, whether you're reading a book or you hear a podcast or just some guy on a radio or something comes on TV, a commercial or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay. And then later in the week, the exact same topic comes up. You hear conversation at work or something like that. And then you later on in the week again, that same topic comes up and in a different angle. And so multiple times throughout that week, you're hearing that thing and so you're now dealing with that thing that week. That's, this is a thing that I'm going through, whether it's, let's take that pebble in the pond idea, right? And yeah, I've heard that like 3 times this week. That's so weird from 3 different sources. There's something in the universe, or it's God or whatever that's telling you that this is the sort of thing that you need to be listening to. This is where you're at right now. This is the season that you're in right now. And then, so if you go to something like that, you sit in Power of Our Story or whatever, and you hear that, it could very well be that 3rd or 4th time this person's hearing that sort of deal, in which now that's their life is changing and they're perking up because I've heard this before, and somewhere somebody wants me to hear this, and I need to hear this, and that's I would assume you've experienced that, because I've experienced that I don't know how many times.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much divine orchestration.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many things I can't even explain.
Right.
Like things like that. Like, I think there's probably a readiness, there's something that's already opening up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear it again and again, and everything is kind of aligning.
Right. Everything's getting primed for that topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that a lot. I think there is just like, how did I end up sitting next to that guy?
Right.
Like it was the worst seat possible, and something held me up in the parking lot. My friend didn't save me a seat, so I ended up, of course, with a veteran, he wants to be in the corner, the front, see the whole room and see where the entry is. So I ended up in this very awkward seat, like where nobody would want to sit. And I'm here today because I ended up in that terrible seat.
It's so weird that he decided, I'm going to open up and tell this person my whole story here, this thing that the reason I'm here in this class or whatever.
Yeah, it was in little bits. He kind of flicked something out,
mm-hmm.
probably testing me.
Right.
And I got so curious because I was so unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing is I couldn't understand how somebody could like get all these medals, and then retire and then want to take their life. Like, I don't get that. Well, didn't you do well? Like, now you get to, at such a young age of retiring, now you get to just go have fun. Like, I just didn't get it. I didn't get it.
You can go do whatever, but there's something else that he's carrying along with him. And that you're
like, what's
able
going on? Yeah, tell me, talk to me. So it was kind of a progression, a slower progression. But I just kind of kept at it, and he was willing. And so I learned so much. And that's what made me feel like I don't want the people who are protecting us seeing these things that I don't want to do.
Right.
Every day to not have a place of safety themselves.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And have you gotten to now? How many people have you had on the Power of Our Story? If you can put a number on it, I mean, because it changes all the time, fluctuates, I'm sure, but
yeah,
hundreds? Are you looking thousands?
Well, since so over the last 2.5 years, we have, I think, about 80 recordings now. Like, I have other people facilitating groups too. So I think we have about 80 recordings on YouTube. That's probably like a third. I would say that's maybe a half. So I would say maybe 150, 200 storytellers.
Wow.
That have been on. Yeah, and some really powerful people. Like, I get blown away. It just never gets old.
Right.
Just it's incredible.
So, and you said it's veterans and first responders. So that's police officers and firefighters, EMTs, and pretty much any other first responder you could think of, dispatchers, all that stuff like that.
Oh, we've got some regular dispatchers. Love them.
Right.
A couple of nurses. Yeah.
Right. And so they're coming on and they're telling their stories. Are they often trauma filled, and that they are the struggle that they went through? Are they talking about their recovery, their post trauma? Are they talking about how they got through it, and what it was that helped them get through it, or is it just the story itself?
It's really a positive slant. Again, because we want to give people hope. There are groups out there, and I totally understand what they're trying to do. So this is not down on them. It's just not what we do. You can get so much in the storytelling where you can get stuck.
Right.
And so these groups, we really try to find the storytellers that are up there. They have come out from the other side. Now, not the people that join the group. It's, we want anybody who wants to be there. But the storyteller themselves, they can say, hey, listen, I have been in a very low place and this is what helped me. So a lot of times we'll have people that are maybe they have a nonprofit now because of what they went through. Like somebody, we had a couple veterans who realized that not getting sleep almost took them out. So they have
which we would all think is normal. Like, yeah, of course you need sleep, but they couldn't. Huge. But they could, right?
Right. That's like I've learned. That's like the first thing you should look at. Like, really learn how to get good sleep after your adrenals, like everything inside is just so ramped up. Like, how do you get good sleep? That is very important.
And have you figured out how to do that? Has anybody given you the secret of good sleep? Because people wrestle with it all the time.
Oh, we've had so many resources come on. They'll oh gosh, 22Zero. I don't know if you've run across them. They have this way of it's like NLP. It somehow disengages the trauma with the physiological response. And so they do this thing with they separate that in your thought process. It's like a 90-minute session. And what it does, it disengages the response. And when people go through that, they end up sleeping for hours, sometimes the best sleep they have had in years. And they don't even talk about the trauma.
Wow.
It's just following their prompts, and somehow that heals the brain. It separates the event from the response and disengages it. And then, there's 22 Romeo talks about sleep hygiene, and they have all these different things that they teach you how to prepare the body for good sleep.
What do they say?
There's they have some gadgets that kind of help, like maybe have a certain lighting in the room. You want to get out cell phones. You are prepping, like, no electronics an hour before you go to bed. then they work with you too. I'm trying to remember exactly what they said, but we've had other people that have been helped by that on talk too. And it's mostly just teaching them how to prepare the body for sleep. So those are just some examples.
Yeah, I get that prep. I mean, you think about it. They say that, like, blue light before you go to sleep, that just keeps your brain active and keeps your brain just wanting to go.
Right.
Instead of, just reading a book as opposed to reading your Kindle or reading or reading articles on Facebook or whatever the case may be. And, actually just reading that's better for your eyes, because your eyes think it has to keep going because of that blue light or something like along those lines. But that makes total sense to me, shut all that stuff off. Don't have, devices an hour before you go to sleep.
Very simple things like that. Yeah. Or blocking out all the light that would come in from the windows, or having the room a certain temperature. Just really preparing and teaching the body to prep for sleep.
Right. I think that's enormous. And we talked about this, is that the fact that people struggle, and people that don't have trauma struggle sleeping. They think about their bills, or they think about work the next day, or they think about whatever. But the guys and the girls who have actual trauma from seeing, the most horrific things, whether it's their best friends dying, in battle, or, babies getting hurt while they're on calls, or, people being, them not being able to save them in the ER or whatever the case may be. There, you have all these people who have this trauma, and yet they honestly can't sleep because they're always dealing with that. And so they go in this constant state of, maybe lethargy because they haven't been able to sleep at night more than, 2 or 3 hours at a time. And then they, they're up, they go to the bathroom, they get a drink of water, or they go do whatever, and then they go back to bed for 2 or 3 hours, and they're up again, and there's no solid sleep. So it's such an important thing, I think.
After I heard these talks, it just seemed so clear that is the first thing that needs to be looked at before a diagnosis of some kind of mental health. In fact, I would love to introduce you to Robert Sweetman. He's the CEO, the founder of 22 Romeo. It was just fascinating what they were finding in the studies about how sleep deprived people are. He was SEAL. He is a former SEAL. Oh, nice. And so that's why he did that, because a lot of, special forces and operators aren't sleeping. Right? If they get wired that way, it gets rewired of, no consistency in sleep. And so their body just doesn't know how to sleep.
Right.
There's another nightwear too. We had people on from nightwear. It's a little gadget like a little Apple Watch. And there's, people talk of having maybe 20, 25 nightmares a night that they never sleep.
Wow.
And this learns the body rhythm, and it vibrates slightly and breaks up the pattern to have a nightmare without waking you up.
Oh, wow.
So it's that also has changed a lot of lives.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Go get yourself a nightwear. You never know. Because I was thinking that was like the guys who are worn down from working night shift forever. I mean, because you don't get good sleep there, because you try to go home after work in the morning, and your neighbor's mowing the lawn, and the mail guys come in, and the dogs are barking outside, and all these different things. You hear traffic on the road, and so you don't sleep well anyway. So that just adds to one more thing. So that's what I was thinking of, the wearing down of being at night. But no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Trauma does something. It's a tough thing, but there's so many resources now that can really help mentally, emotionally, spiritual, the moral injuries. There's so much that, it's that our protectors have to contend with.
Yeah.
And to really open that door and say, listen, you don't have to suffer in silence. there are so many things out there. There are so many people that want to help.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many things that can help different situations, but you just have to take that first step and talk to somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big trick, is being courageous enough just amongst yourself to be willing to open up and talk to somebody, and figuring out, that if I tell this person these things, it's not going anywhere, or they're not going to judge me, or they understand where I'm at, something along those lines.
Exactly. And I really feel for the first responders, because I know that it's scary. I hear the stories. I hear the consequences of the invitation. Yes, come and be open. You can seek help here. And then the consequences of when they do.
Right.
So there are definitely places and agencies that are not safe.
Agreed.
They're not safe.
Yeah.
Very sadly. And I'm hoping that's changing with all these conversations. But that being said, I mean, there's Resilient Minds, Michael Pellegrino, that is doing great work in supporting our first responders. There really are things happening that are places and people of safety.
Yeah.
That you can heal and not go through this alone.
That's cool. And yeah, you're right. That is one of the, I've talked to several people who say, yeah, I'm not going to say anything because I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble, or I'm going to get fired, or they're going to take this away or take that away. And, they're going to make me retire, or whatever the case may be. And if you can get to that place where you can be open and honest, which, I have people come on here that we don't use their full name because they don't want any repercussion, whether there would be or not, and whether they say anything or not. You never know, And so, to get somebody to be comfortable doing that, that's a big thing. That's almost an ability. And are you facilitating this when you have Power of My Story and you have these people that are willing to, or is it something that you are soliciting out of them, or is it just the general group that is doing that?
It's mostly people that are really wanting to share their story because they've overcome some big things.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a perfect platform. They can even practice on our group, but they're ready.
Yeah.
They're not worried about consequences. And so it does empower the rest of the group. And then when people are ready, then they will too. There's never any pressure. I tell people, listen, if it's a second before the group and you start feeling like you don't want to, don't do it. Don't worry about it.
Change that.
Or wait. Yeah. And I always send the recording to people first. But I think, we feel very hopeful, because what our hope is that we can they all say that if I had known this at the academy, if I had known what trauma looks like and just had been ready, when that day happens, then I know what to do. Like, I would have known what to do instead of had to suffer in silence all these years.
Right. So,
yeah,
I think about that all the time. We go through stuff, and I think I don't know about a lot. I know there's some things that we go through that we do ourselves. We build up in our own head because we think somebody's going to, thinks of us one way, or doesn't like us for this reason or that reason. And there's all these different things that we build up in our own head, when in fact, if we were to just put it out there maybe a little bit, talk to somebody you trust enough that, they can say that, well, that's not really a big deal because of, this sort of thing. And you can kind of gauge that. But if you are so introverted and you refuse to talk to anybody, you have no friends, or you just are, you just want to stay inside your own little hermit world, you're never going to get anything, and you're never going to understand that, be able to bounce that off of somebody.
Yeah, it's, well, and that's where your podcast comes in too. At least they're they're getting what you have to share.
Right.
And thank God for this, right? At least they have an opportunity if they're determined not to say anything, at least they can hear other people share stories from your podcast. And that is I just can't imagine living like that. And I hear the suffering for first responders and see how much they blossom. I mean, honestly, they start thriving and coming alive when they start having the freedom of getting open.
Right.
Now you do, of course, have to be smart, who you share with.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes. There's some people, there's some people, this doesn't matter. You can't trust some people, and it's unfortunate, but
yeah.
You say, you just use those words. You said, I can't imagine living like that. And you're not saying that like, and maybe this is me clarifying, but you're not saying that to say, I can't imagine living the way you live, but you can't imagine the struggle that they're going through. Is that more more accurate?
Thank you so much for saying that. Yes. I say that with incredible compassion.
Right.
Empathy, like everything in this mama bear, everything in me wants to just go and say, listen, do this for yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to live that way. You don't have to.
You have to live that way. You don't have to suffer in silence all these years. I have a group of first responders that are practically begging other people, you don't have to live this way and suffer in silence. We're all here. There's so many people who want to support you because we've all been there too.
Yeah. Yes. You've seen junk. We've seen junk. That's unload it. Get rid of it. And you don't have to not sleep. You don't have to not eat. You don't have to have bad relationships. You can get through this sort of thing and actually do something that's beneficial for you and worthwhile for other people. And
it's amazing the different help that people have gotten. This person does EMDR, this person does 22-0,
right,
this person does meditation, this person runs, this person, you get all these ideas and the creativity starts going, and then you remember who you are and what you love and what you thrive on. And
it's huge once you start seeing, you start seeing ways in which you can have an outlet. If you just say, well, my outlet's watching TV, but it's not, because you're not really getting an outlet. You're bringing things in. It's that I heard somebody once say that they were talking about something that they do, and they say, I'd rather produce than consume. And I was like, that's right. I'd rather be a producer than a consumer. When you're producing, you have output. You're putting things out there, and to put something out, you have to have something inside to bring out and put out there. If you're always consuming, that may not have anything else, any more room to go. You have a big dinner. Let's say you have a big dinner and you fill up there's a point where you're unbuttoning your pants and you're not comfortable sitting there, and you walk out of there and you're just, oh my gosh, I'm so full. Well, you've consumed so much, you don't have any more else for anything else to go. So then when you walk by after that nice dinner you've had, and somebody says, hey, let's go get ice cream, you can't even go do that. You can't do anything. You're so full. So you can't enjoy little things once you just consume. But if you produce and you're putting things out there, you're just going to take in what you need so you can continue to produce. And that is, whether that is, like you said, running or biking or doing martial arts, or it's doing, it's reading, or you're basket weaving, or you're leading a group, or you're doing something along those lines. There's such an option, but you may not know those options because you've been in this world where you've had blinders on because you've been frustrated for so long that you don't know that you can go do these other things.
So true. It's so true. We have someone coming on our group. I think he was actually homeless, and he ended up just connecting to, I think a judge he started this running club in LA. And now this guy, they're running marathons, and that's what they do. They do it in community. They run these marathons, and they have gone all over the world.
Wow.
There's just so much opportunity out there.
You never know. And you just got to get out of your comfort zone sometimes and go say, I'm going to go get uncomfortable for a little bit. And so then I can build myself up, because what do they say? And I think I mentioned it on here before, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most, and if you decide that you're going to hang out with a bunch of geniuses, or if you decide that you're going to hang out with a bunch of, that's just for lack of a better term, idiots, let's say you're the best of the idiots. You're still the best idiot out there. You're still an idiot. But if you hang out with geniuses, you're going to be and you're the worst. You're the dumbest. Hey, at least you're the least smart genius you hang out with.
Yeah.
You're going to become who you hang out with the most. So those people that have that mindset to go out and do things and decide to build community and brotherhood and sisterhood and all this different stuff can absolutely change the way that you look at things and how you look and how you deal with them.
So true. It's just having that courage to take that first step, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. And that's a huge thing. You don't think about something like that, but absolutely. What are some of the, is it, I guess my question, I'm trying to figure out how to formulate it, but is it the same thing every time? Do you have different topics or do you just open it up every time? How does it go with the power of our story?
So most of the time, I really love the storytellers to really share their own story. Mm-hmm. So I'll encourage them to give me a title and a description. Mm-hmm. And then I can help promote the talk too, but it'll definitely be their story. And then they'll come on and then they'll share that. And then we talk about it afterward. Mm-hmm. Then there's other times where we'll just have an open mic. And I'm really encouraging people to kind of step up and facilitate. Like, I think it's great to have first responders be the facilitators.
Yeah.
I'll help I'll kick things going. Kickstart. That's what I'm trying to say. But, I think it's really great to hear from a veteran or hear from a first responder.
Right. So you look at yourself as the host and not it's not about you. It's not, you're not doing it. You're just there to kind of bring people on stage to do their own thing. You're the Johnny Carson of everything.
Right. I try to kind of get it started and then even invite other Johnny Carsons. Yeah.
Sure.
So I'm starting now to actually say, you know what? You have an incredible story. And I've heard this person over there. There seems to be such a synergy. Like I saw these 2 guys on LinkedIn that were just amazing and saw that they knew each other. Mm-hmm. So I asked this one guy, I said, would you come and actually interview this other guy? I think you would be the perfect interviewer and you have such similar stories. So they're going to come on instead of me doing it. Mm-hmm. This other storyteller who's been on will be the one that actually interviews somebody else. So,
cool.
I am really learning and I just watch and I pay attention to what is working and what's helping. And then that's the direction that I go in. So that's where we're at. We have a transition group, a retired lieutenant colonel from the Marines. He leads that one. Mm-hmm. And he brings in people who have really transitioned well from veterans to first responders. Then we have the first responder group where we have maybe law enforcement. A lot of law enforcement officers come in and share their story and how kind of where they're at now. The theme really is trying to get the agencies to see what's happening so that they can be a support instead of a hindrance in their officers doing well.
Right.
So that's been the flavor in that one. I have one personally on Friday morning where I invite a lot of different people. I had people who have immigrated to this country who share what has been incredible and teaching people what it was like in their country. So, and I have mental health people and I have veterans and I have a lot of people come in and share their story.
That's cool.
We have a faith-based one too. So people who want to get stronger in their faith, we have, veterans, first responders, faith-based group also.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. Where can people learn how to get involved. How can people get on there? Do they just find you on LinkedIn, or what's the route?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Sarah Correll again, Correll. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there.
Mm-hmm.
The best way is just look up the power of our story. We have a website. You can look up the power of our story on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and connect with us that way. And we'll get you the Zoom links and get you the schedules, and you are welcome to come on anytime.
Very cool. So what is in the future for Sarah Correll and the power of our story? Are we looking at books? Are we looking at, a full TV show, or what are we looking for? Anything? Are we looking at anything like that in the future? For what's your outlook at this point?
That's such a great question. This has gotten so much bigger than I had initially imagined. Uh-huh. And the place where I'm at right now is it is so much not a Sarah, but it's us.
Mm-hmm.
That I tell people this will go as much forward as people step up and take a part of it.
Right.
So we have people that are stepping up that are helping with social media. So we are unfolding. There's not a clear vision for the big picture. We'd love it to be like a movement,
mm-hmm.
Where groups can be everywhere. But I really have a sense, and I have a faith that the road is going to become clear. I just have to keep taking that next step.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you're making a $1 kajillion on this on the weekly.
No.
I didn't.
No.
Yeah. Because
it
sounds like a passion project for the most part, that it's just the pay is in the honor and in the character of it, which is awesome.
It's a total labor of love for all of us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Yeah. And where do you get your staff? Where do you get the people that help you out? From, are they just from that, or just people or what? How do you get the people to help out?
It's the people who want to help that have come on the group first.
Awesome. That is so cool. Very cool.
We had this, dispatcher. She came on, was very, very quiet, just was on disability with PTSD. And she just, oh my gosh, it's amazing what's happening with her. She has just blossomed and is just now doing all these things. She's going to get her master's now in psychology. She's just gotten accepted. Wow. She's doing our social media.
Because she started seeing other options that she could do instead of living in her own little, in the dark there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She's on fire.
That is so cool. Very cool.
And there's other stories like that happening. So it's, as long as that's happening, I see people, really healing,
mm-hmm.
We're all in.
That's cool. Very cool. Well, I am so honored that you came on the show today and you were able to tell us all about this. And I mean, just the things that you're doing to help people that you don't have a specific, I guess, a dog in this fight specifically. You don't have a husband or a father or a parent or a family member, whatever, that's a first responder or a veteran or anything like that. However, hearing these people's story and saying, you know what, I am going to support them no matter what, because they're out there when I'm trying to, live my life and sleep at night and living in the way that I live in society and in America and everything. They're out there fighting that good fight, whether it's the veteran or it's the police officer that's keeping me safe at night, the firefighter's willing to, kick in my door to pull me out of a fire, or the nurse who's waiting for me at the hospital, or, anything like that. They're doing that. And you said, I see the value that they're adding to society and our community. And I want to honor them in that and give them a sounding board to be who they are, to get their story out there. It's commendable. And that there's not a lot of people that see that, because now you can look back to little Sarah years and years ago and say, you know what? I know that playing violin over and over and playing all those notes and those chords and everything else over and over was it got you to where you are. It's just everything you are. So I always look at, when I talk to people, can they make that their little self, the one that they knew from years and years ago, that little kid, can they have that? Can that kid look at that person and be proud and be like, man, that's the person I want to grow up to be? And it looks like little Sarah is looking up to big Sarah and saying, that's who I want to be. I'm glad that's who I got to be. So that's cool. That is so cool. And you should be very proud of yourself.
Never thought of it that way. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on here.
Absolutely. I think I know that there's people that I know that have been on Power of My Story. And I know that I've got friends who they know each other because they met that way. They didn't know each other before, and then they're good friends that way. And so, they know who I'm talking about, and if they've been on it, they know what the deal is. So, I'm thinking I have not had a ton of time, but I need to jump on myself and get in there and listen to some good stories and meet some good people. So I think that's awesome.
We would love to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you would love the group. I mean, you just can't help but love them.
That's cool.
So.
That's very cool. Very cool. So,
yeah.
So Sarah, I appreciate you being here. It's been nothing but a joy, and you keep up what it is you're doing, because it's obviously got to be making a difference, especially the folks that I've spoken with. They love it. So
thank you so much, and keep up the great work you're doing too. I appreciate you. Absolutely.
You're welcome, and you're welcome back anytime. You want to bring people with you next time, that's fine too, and we can just make this a group effort if need be, but like I said, you're welcome back anytime. So
thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So you be safe out there, and we'll talk with you later.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ken.
And we are
recording stopped.
There you go. Well, thank you. Oh. And Sara Correll has left the building, so to speak. I know I always say that. I don't think she's left her building, because looking at her, she's in her house. Because yes, if you're not aware, she is not in the studio. I don't normally, if somebody is, I've had several people in the studio here. However, for the most part, I talk to people via the internet, and they're in their homes, or they're in their offices, or they're doing whatever they're doing as well. So we get them raw and comfortable in their space when they're talking to us. So I think it's pretty cool. Like, let's take Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. When I spoke with him, he's in his den in his house. When he was talking to me, he just had books everywhere in the background. And, I know a lot of people can't see, because obviously this is an audio podcast, but I keep getting told you should record those interviews and then you should put them on like YouTube or something like that. Well, the joke's on you, because I have recorded almost all of my interviews via video with on the interwebs, as we call them, and I have all those, and I have them on a file. However, I just have not taken them and put them on YouTube or anything like that. But that doesn't mean I never will. So if you would like to see that, it will take a little bit extra work on my part. However, if you would like to see these people, see our interviews, see our back and forth with each other, I'm willing to put that on there. I would need something from you. I would need you guys to say something via social media. So like either on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram or LinkedIn. You put, let's say I put the advertisement for the episode out there, you guys comment on it. You got to comment on it. And if you want to see some video, maybe I'll make snippets. Maybe I'll put the whole thing on there. Nevertheless, I can have it on there and we can go back and forth, and you guys be able to see what I look like, see what they look like, see what, maybe you want to see me pick my nose or something on video. Not that I do that, but who knows? Maybe I did. I had to get one out for, just kidding. Not that way. We are going to look at the videos and see if I can actually get them on there. And, but I need you guys to be willing to want to see them. So let me know and we can get that on there. If you want to hear and find out how to get all the previous episodes of the podcast, you can go to the What's a Hero podcast.buzzsprout.com. It has every previous episode on there. You can stream it. It also has links to your favorite podcast platform. You can go into that, subscribe to the podcast, download the podcast from there. You'll have it on your phone. You'll have it on, I would assume, your phone. Not too many people use the iPod by itself anymore, but be surprised. I have an iPod that I just have sitting in my truck for just music. Nevertheless, you can have the podcast with you anywhere you go. You never have to worry about losing signal or using up data or anything like that. And you would be able to listen to the podcast at any time you want to. So consider doing that. Downloads help us, and it helps us know who you are, where you're listening from. Not exactly who you are. It doesn't give me demographics on you specifically, but it does tell me what general area of the country you're from, which is awesome. What general area of the world you're from, because I'm getting, which is very cool to me, and I really like this, international listeners and people from all over the country. You guys are awesome, and I thank you so much for listening into this. And if there's things that you want me to talk to, or people that you know you would like to hear on my show, let me know about it. Let me know about them. Have them or give them my information via the social media, and they can get a hold of me, and we can see if we can work something out. I think it would be awesome, especially people that have awesome stories that need to be told. Now, with that being said, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, and you can follow our podcast pages. Our podcast page is, and you can interact with us. Do it. We would love to hear from you. But I also want to consider those people that we talked about today, in which give everything they have for other people and go through trauma, go through those hard times, that are struggling. People that, and we talked about this on the last podcast with Ryan Rodriguez, where suicide is a thing that we're struggling with. Our first responders, our veterans. This is the job you wanted to do, and you put so much into it. And yes, it does take a lot out. But if you don't have a way to deal with the struggles that you're going through, and you decide to just retreat inside that dark hole, in that darkness that comes in and hurts, and that's the only place you want to stay, of course those bad thoughts are going to come in. Of course those things that are going to be unhealthy for you are going to manifest. You need to get out of that. You need to climb out of that. And I know you're saying, oh, it's depression. You can't just say get out of it. You're right, you can't. But there, you have to be willing to step up and say something to somebody, show somebody that you've developed a relationship with, that you are not good. You have to be willing to go talk to somebody, get this off your chest. If nothing else, go to the Power of My Story, and you can hear other people to where until you get comfortable, and then you're willing to tell your story. Get it off your chest. It's going to be amazing, the things that you see and the things that you find in which you are, you never thought you would be able to accomplish, that you never thought you would ever open up to. But get that out there. That's the first step, is talking about it, opening up about it. And then you'll be able to start sleeping, which is another big thing. So check out Power of My Story. And I want to thank all you guys, all your first responders out there, firefighters or dispatchers, our police officers, our EMTs, all of you guys that keep aware and awake at all hours of the day and night, so we can just have the lifestyles that we have in this country. To our veterans who see and do so much that no normal, regular person ever has to deal with. The same thing with our first responders. You guys deal with things that people don't want to, which is what makes you special, which makes you better. not better in a way that demeans anybody else, but the fact that your mindset and your character says, I want to go and help other people be better because you are already possessing that ability to do that. Thank you. We cannot show our appreciation enough for what you do. So thank you to all of our first responders and our veterans, our teachers and our nurses, all you guys and girls who see and do things that normal people wouldn't. It's I don't have the words for it, so thank you so much. So with that being said, and for Sarah Correll and the power of our story, I have been Ken Frownfelter, and this has been the What's a Hero podcast. We are clear.